Hi, and welcome back to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for season 3 of American Gods. Thank you to Amazon for the screeners. Let me know which of these seasons has been your favorite so far, season 1 or 2. Which is your favorite character? Do give me a thumbs up, it does help loads. But for now, let's jump into the review. In season 3, Shadow angrily pushes the apparent destiny away and settles into the idyllic snowy town of Lakeside, Wisconsin, to make his own path guided by the gods of his black ancestors, the Osiris. However, he will soon discover that this town's still waters run deep and dark and bloody, and that you won't get to simply reject being a god. The only place and then the only choice you have to make is what kind of god you're going to be. So Shadow and Odin are back. At the end of season 2, we saw Shadow have to go, basically run away because the cops have showed up at the house where they were seeking safety because Mr. World had made them out to be like terrorist Odin and a couple of others, and so now we see as the journey starts again. They're in separate places. Odin is once again trying to gather gods onto his side for the brewing war, and Mr. World is trying to do the same. So we have the new gods versus the old gods. That storyline is still very much playing in, I guess, the forefront and behind as a timey-wimey storyline arc. That's the major thing. It's kind of all over the place, that arc, but that's okay because the Shadow storyline is the coherent structure in season 3, and this is what I really like about season 3. See, season 1 and 2 are visually stunning, but there are times, if you don't know the work, if you hadn't read the original works, you may come into this series being a little bit confused at times, or a lot confused at times, because sometimes the visual storytelling nature of this series can go off on massive tangents, and it's creative, it's fantastic to look at. You're watching a god eat a guy with her vajayjay, and there are just massive amounts of moments like that where the story goes off on one side and you have to follow it, but you don't quite know what's going on. And sometimes there's a coherent story, but for the most part you have to kind of pick threads. Eventually it normally draws to an end and you're like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. And really it's been about the story between Shadow and Odin and who Shadow actually is. The end of season 2, we get to find out that Shadow actually is a well, I think that they've been drawing towards it that he is a son of Odin. So technically he's a god, but will he embrace his godhood? All those questions are up in the air in season 3. So what I like about this is that there's a massive coherent storyline that is easily followable and easily bingeable. It's the most bingeable season so far. I feel like they've had a chat in the writers' room. They've taken on board some of the criticisms from the fans, and they've gone, okay, so they love the visual storytelling. We're doing that right. The acting is phenomenal, but they need to be able to follow it somewhat. And so the first 4 episodes of this series is just like following Shadow through his storyline. And so we pick up with Shadow and Odin. Odin have massive interesting encounters with the law, but not really the law. We see some godhood traveling, which I really like. You get to see more of the powers, which is part of the fun of watching the series. It's seeing how that manifests in the modern world, which is excellent. You see Shadow in Lakeside, like Odin's trying to always guide him, and Shadow somewhat thinks that he has a choice in the matter, but somehow it always feels like he doesn't. And so we see how or what he's going to choose to be a god, how good he's going to be, how bad he's going to be, how he's going to use his powers. So he may not have a choice in his destiny, but he can choose how he's going to be a god. And that always plays a central focus in the series. Again, it is visually stunning. The sets in this, the design are incredible. It's one of the main draws to this series, that the way it looks. It's so visceral, it's so visual. A lot of the time there isn't a lot of dialogue on screen. It is being told visually, which is excellent. And if you get a narrative that is coherent in that, then it's really enjoyable. I really enjoyed the Shadow character this time round, although he has a new name, which is pretty cool. There are, of course, other gods that crop up that they tend to do that. The whole Odin storyline really is him trying to draw on gods that he used to know, not just from his group, but from other more obscure gods that possibly that they haven't touched on yet. And we see how he really has pissed off everybody, and so he's always trying to mend fences and then bring them to his cause without it look liking that he's just being selfish, and he needs people and he needs money to fund his war. And the same is happening on the other side. Sometimes we have the crisscrossing of both sides, which I think is probably more interesting than them just on their own. But for the most part, the storyline is really on Shadow, and they really start delving with his past or god past. We start finding out that there's more. There is one character that is suddenly just kind of thrust in with the Odin band, because obviously we have the band from season 1 and 2. We have Odin, we have Wednesday, we have Shadow, we have his ex-wife, we have the leprechaun, who is, I think, probably my favorite character. Or yeah, won't say anything more about that. And then we have another lady, and I'm not even going to say who she is, but it just feels like, oh, we've got to write this person in. It did feel a little bit like that. So that would be my only drawback until she's actually properly used and you understand why she's there. But when she first enters the scene, you're like, who are you? Why are you suddenly here? I understand putting new characters in, but does feel like it was a little bit thrust in, and that would be my only drawback on that. But other than that, I really enjoyed this. Is actually my favorite season so far. I'm looking forward to what people think about season 3. I haven't seen the whole lot, so what there's available for press screeners, I think they gave us 4 or 5 episodes, and we watched those, and then obviously there are going to be weekly terrestrial TV or Amazon Original or Stars, wherever you're watching it. So I can't give a full review rating yet, but from what I've seen, the coherent structure is much different from season 1 and 2. I loved it so far. For me, it is just I struggled to watch season 1 and 2 at times. I watched them in chunks. This one, I was just like, yeah, put on the next one. And so that for me is really exciting. I loved what they've come back to. They've also done more episodes. It's 10 rather than the 8 for season 1 and 2. So I think they've got faith. And it's also been picked up for a season 4, which is amazing. This one hasn't even aired, and Stars has gone, yeah, we want more. So they got faith in their IP, which is great, because sometimes you don't want to invest yourself in a new series because you don't know if they're going to get cancelled halfway through and you're not going to have those stories finished. That's the worst, because that happens a lot. But here they've got fantastic season 3 and 4 coming, and we also have some great acting. Ian McShane, he's just a chameleon. Whatever role he's playing, he tends to really dive deep into those characters. He's that gruff, amazing voice, the presence, and you have a lot of actors in this series that have on-screen presence, so they're always kind of battling out like who's better, depending on the dialogue or what they're given to do is depending what will stick with you. But I think for the most part, you'll really enjoy this. So do chat to me in the comments below. Let me know which is your favourite character. Let me know which is your favourite season so far. Have you read the original works? How does that compare to you? But most of all, thank you so much for watching this. Until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.